Ross, good to see you again. Feels like the state of Pennsylvania is the epicenter of football right now because you got Steelers, you got the Eagles, and then you got Penn State. So where do you want to start?
Well, I'm right in the middle of all of it, Dan. I live in central Pennsylvania, which is interesting because growing up closer to Philly in Reading, it's 100% Eagles fans. You go an hour west, and now it's probably 50-50 between Eagles and Steelers. You know what I would say? I'll make a comparison, actually, Dan, between Mike Tomlin and James Franklin because I'm hearing the same thing from Steelers fans that I was hearing from some of the Penn State fans. Now, it's different, but there's a lot of crossover between those two fan bases. And you know, Dan, they just feel ready to move on. And they recognize that Franklin was a good coach. They recognize that Mike Tomlin is a good coach. I think in both instances, they felt like it was time to move on. Now, we'll see how that works out for Penn State. Obviously, the coaching search has not gone as they wanted it to, but there were a lot of people that wanted James Franklin fired. They were sick of losing to Ohio State. They were sick of not winning, quote, unquote, the big one, and they were ready to move on. The same thing with Mike Tomlin. You know, Steelers fans have a really high standard, Dan, really high standard, and they should. You're the 70s, and even when Roethlisberger was there, they won a couple Super Bowls. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016, and I think what frustrates them is it feels like there's a commitment to just above mediocrity. There's a commitment to being good enough. And they're sick of that. I mean, you talk to Steelers fans, it's kind of wild that they'd rather the team go 3-14 and get a high draft pick and finally try to fix the quarterback position. I don't think they realize how hard that is to do, but that's the mindset right now. A lot of Steelers fans feel the same way a lot of Penn State fans did, in which they're ready to move on. What's unique about that is just like Franklin, if the Steelers part ways with Tomlin, he'll have 3 or 4 offers this offseason. He'll have 3 or 4 NFL offers of teams that would be thrilled to get Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, commitment to mediocrity or just above mediocrity, not the same as commitment to excellence that the Raiders coined back with Al Davis there. All right, you were on the call with the game last night. What were you expecting?
I was expecting a lot of points, which we got. I really thought the Cowboys were going to win. I mean, I talked about this on the Even Money Betting podcast. And honestly, everyone I spoke to, Dan, I mean, even Lions fans, even people that cover the Lions, everyone was surprised that the Lions were favored. And not just favored, they were favored by 3. And then yesterday during the game, before the game, it went up to 3.5, which, as you know, is a huge difference. That made no sense to me. From a betting perspective, I thought taking the Cowboys 3.5 made all the sense in the world because the Lions' weaknesses right now, or at least perceived weaknesses going into it, matched up with the Cowboys' strengths. The interior of the offensive line for the Lions has not been good, and they're banged up. The Cowboys might have the best D-tackle rotation in the league right now. The secondary, they put Terry and Arnold, their best corner, on IR. They have no Kirby Joseph. You're going up against George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. I think most people thought the way these two teams were trending, that it'd be a high-scoring game, but that the Cowboys would probably win outright, 34-31. If they lost, it would be by a field goal or so. I will also say this. I did not think Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to play. He didn't practice at all week. If they didn't play him last night, he'd have 10 days before the next game. They still had 4 more games to go. He made a really, really significant difference last night.
I know everybody's all in on George Pickens. I need to see a little bit more. I know he can be unbelievable. I know, we were ready to christen him the best receiver the Cowboys had a couple of weeks ago or last week. But it felt like there were a couple of moments where George Pickens didn't do what he was supposed to do. He still makes spectacular plays, but I just can't be all in on him. And they're going to sign him up to a $30 million contract, I'm guessing. What do you think?
Well, that is the, I guess, $30 million question, because whatever you want to say about him, he's incredibly talented. He's a top 5 guy in terms of talent. He already had going into last night the most yards by any Cowboys receiver ever in the first 12 games of the season, which is just incredible when you think about the receivers that they've had. But pick your word, Dan. Erratic behavior, enigmatic. He is a very unique person, and when you see the season he's having and the plays he's making for the Steelers, who drafted him to move on from him, with as long as they held on to Antonio Brown, as long as they held on to other guys, Plexico Burris and Santonio Holmes, that says a lot. I would be scared to death to give him a long-term deal. I'd rather franchise tag him for a year, see how it goes. He feels like, Dan, a guy that you want to date and not marry. And if you do choose to marry him, and the Cowboys might, boy, that contract, you better have a heck of a prenup if you're going to marry George Pickens to a long-term deal.
We're talking to Ross Tucker, CBS Sports, Westwood One NFL college football analyst, and, of course, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. The most must-win game of the weekend is which one?
I think I'm going to say, other than last night, I think I'm going to say the Chiefs. I think Chiefs-Texans. Feels to me like that's as close as we get to last night in the sense of an elimination game. I have no idea how these people come up with these numbers where, if the Cowboys win, they have a 42% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, they have a 9. I mean, they could make up any number and I would just believe them. But I don't know, those guys
Wait a minute, you went to Princeton. You're supposed to know these things.
Dan, I intentionally avoided any math classes like that, like they were the plague. Listen, there's certain classes at a school like Princeton you take. There's certain classes you don't. It's like all the guys freshman year that they walk in, they're like, yeah, I'm pre-med. And we're like, yeah, no, you're not.
You won't be.
Yeah, wait till organic chemistry. Just so you know, when you walk into that class, almost everybody in there is smarter than you. And if they're not, it's the hockey guys. But no, I mean, they come up with these percentages, and last night was a massive swing, right? Like 30% either way for the Lions and the Cowboys. That's the Texans and the Chiefs. And what's interesting about that one is it reminds me of last night in the sense that the Chiefs are down both starting offensive tackles. Let me tell you who you don't want to play when that's the case. The Houston Texans. Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, the best edge duo in the NFL. Those are two bad dudes. Mahomes better get rid of the ball quickly.
I brought this up a couple of times to a couple of different guests. Would you rather have a smart player as a quarterback or a tough player as a quarterback?
Smart. Yeah, I would say smart. I think it's still, isn't it interesting that in football with all these big, tough, strong, fast guys, it really is intelligence. And we're talking football intelligence. It has nothing to do with your SAT or whatever, but football intelligence still is a massive, massive differentiator. You watch what Stafford does a lot of these games. It's like he's in the Matrix. He's seeing it. The other night, Joe Burrow, I had a coach say, and we were talking about this on the Ross Tucker podcast, Joe Burrow is like a human computer chip. I mean, that's how quickly and I have no idea what kind of grades he got or whatever, but he's the son of a coach and smart. Look, of course you want them to be tough, right? But tough can get you in trouble. You know who's tough? Jackson Dart's tough, okay? Jackson Dart's tough. I'm not sure where he is on the smart scale, okay? I don't know how much of that's just youthful bravado or stupidity. I'm not sure where he's at on that scale. I like tough. I love smart if I'm trying to win big.
Yeah, and I know Jackson Dart, his dad was a defensive back, and this is how he plays, and it's not soccer. If that 1 yard means we win the Super Bowl, then go get him. But that 1 yard, you're coming out of concussion protocol, you have 2 wins on the season, get out of bounds.
Well, and Dan, I can remember this. I think it was the 4th team I played for was the Patriots. And when you're in the training room, okay, I don't know if they still have it, but when you're in the training room, they have a big sign above the entrance and exit door that says the best ability is availability. They are very, very clear. You're sitting there in the training room, Dan, getting treatment, looking at that sign. I mean, and maybe they took it down because Belichick's not there anymore, but there was nothing subtle about it. It was your you-know-what needs to be out there every day, and you just can't win. I love Jackson Dart's mentality, I suppose, especially as a former lineman, but they need you out there. You just missed 2 games, and then in the first 10 snaps against the Patriots, you get master blasted twice. I mean, we can't have that.
Is that the official term, master blasted?
I don't know where that came from, but now that I said it, it sounds way too close to another term,
yes,
so I'll probably never, ever be saying that again.
Yeah, Fritzy is a master blaster baiter.
Okay.
So I think is that Mad Max? Is that what that movie is? I think that's what it's from.
Is it? I don't know, man. You know what?
Paulie, is that from Mad Max?
Yeah, that's from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Oh, okay.
What's the Master Blaster, Paulie?
He's the guy who goes into the cage and takes everybody out when they're jousting.
So now that's fascinating to me because I've seen that movie 35 years ago. So somewhere in my brain, talking about Jackson Dart getting smoked, that came out. The human brain is a wild thing, Dan.
Okay, but do linemen think less? Did you think less of Tom Brady when he would just fall down and not take a hit, or Peyton Manning, or some of these all-time greats that didn't take on contact?
Not even a little bit. We wanted them to do that. Tom Brady, all of our lives, our jobs, our success, our playoff money, it's all in their hands. It's all in Tom Brady's hands. We can't have him getting hurt. I remember a Patriot assistant coach telling me when I first got there. Now, he's been a prominent coach since then, NFL head coach and the whole deal. And I said, well, what happens if something happens to Tom? And he said, oh, well, then we just fold up shop and it's over. And I think he was joking, but because he was showing me when I first got there, all of the things, Dan, that Brady did before the snap, which were I had not experienced that with my first 3 teams. No one redeclared the mic, changed the protection, changed the run scheme right before the snap, and then snapped the ball like Brady did. They were operating at a much higher level, and you need that guy. You think about where the Chiefs would be without Mahomes, or the Bills without Josh Allen. You can't win with these guys getting hurt.
Russell Wilson as a guest analyst on CBS. What do you think?
I think I'm probably as curious as anybody else. I think it's always interesting when someone that's been playing this long and we know them in sort of player speak, player talk in that role, to see how they transition. Because Russell hasn't been known as a guy that gives a colorful quote or gives a lot of in-depth information. He's sort of the prototype, and always has been, for how you want your franchise quarterback to handle those press conferences. You want them to smile, you want them to be courteous, and you want them to give as little information as possible. So I think it puts him in a unique spot on Sunday. Can he just flip the switch? Can he flip the switch and actually say something interesting? Or is he still sort of in, I'm an active player, computer mode where I'm just going to say, the generic thing because I don't want to say anything that gets me in trouble. I'm fascinated by it. I think it's great. I mean, I might tune in and watch it to see, what he's like, of course, because it's on CBS. And I love CBS, Dan. I love anything that CBS does.
Of course you do.
I am fully on board with.
Of course you do. You'll be on the call next Sunday, Week 15 between the Jets and the Jags on CBS. Thank you, Ross. Great to talk to you.
Always, Dan. Thank you so much for having me.
That's Ross Tucker. He's one of my favorite guests. He is. He has great stories, and he's not afraid. Ross Tucker Football Podcast